Hey guys, Paul here from Running Injury Free Revolution, and today what I want to do is just talk to you a little bit about stitches because it's something that all runners suffer with, all athletes suffer with, even swimmers get stitches, and it's very sort of misunderstood. There's a few theories with stitches. They used to sort of talk about the fact that there was a lack of blood flow to the diaphragm. Not many people sort of believe that anymore. Sometimes people think about that it's almost sort of the organs and they're sort of pulling on certain areas, and they talk about the lining, the parietal peritoneum, the lining sort of in that abdominal area that starts to get sort of inflamed. I always think about stitches from a myofascial perspective, from a muscle perspective, because it makes a lot of sense. Basically, the diaphragm, you can get little trigger points in the diaphragm and they will cause dramas, they'll cause stitches. Different types of stitches. I'm going to go through stitches in two pieces. So today I want to talk about your side stitch, the one that you get kind of in that area through there. And basically it's sort of thought that it's that diaphragmatic little trigger point in there. What happens is we're talking about the body changing and moving all the time. So sometimes a muscle will just get tight. You won't actually know about it, but sometimes if you stress it, and that can be through pressure of movement, it can be an actual stretch, and bang, it can actually start to fire up. So the diaphragmatic points often get quite nasty, and sometimes people talk about that side stitch. Sometimes some athletes get even a stitch up through the shoulder as well, and that's really not as common, but it can be around. I know Janet Travell used to talk about the dome of the diaphragm being associated with pain in that shoulder type of area. But as a runner, what you want to be aware of is that the diaphragm, when you take that breath in, the diaphragm is actually it's actually depressing, so it's actually contracting to bring air into the lungs, and then as we exhale, the diaphragm will stretch and come back up. So oftentimes your stitch will be the worst when that diaphragm is on stretch, so maximum exhalation, and as a runner we can start to tackle that. So you want to tackle it before your runs, sort of, after a big run, but you can tackle it during as well, because what we see is that you'll have nasty little trigger points through your obliques. So as your obliques, the little digitations of the obliques come up high in onto over those ribs, and that can often be associated with a stitch type of area. You can't actually reach the diaphragm, but as we start to understand our muscles, we know that we can release muscles leading into an area and have a positive effect. So some runners, even as they're running with the stitch, will actually palpate that area and they'll push on it, and they'll find that it actually gives them some relief. I would actually start to think of doing that proactively if you're sort of starting to get stitches in certain parts of your run, and you can use it during as well. So basically my rib cage is just there, it's just above, and you'll find there's a number of little points. Like I've got one right there, and if I slide back I've got another one coming in onto sort of that oblique and into that intercostal area as well. So if I sit on that for about 20 seconds, that's going to trigger point it. That's going to actually get it to start to ease off, and it's a really handy thing to do. What you can do pre-run or after as a preventive measure, because again what you're trying to do is you're just trying to stay away from that edge where all of a sudden a stitch wouldn't normally be a problem, but because there's tension and tightness, bang, it's coming on. So what I do is you get in again, so I will sink in underneath this rib cage, and what I'm trying to do is give my diaphragm a bit of a stretch. So I'm actually getting in on my obliques. My diaphragm is that dome in there, so what I can do is I can go finger and reinforce with another hand, and I'll sink deep in, and then I'm going to head up. So I can actually almost flex myself, so I'm coming in on this flex type position, and my breath in, and then on my breath out, that's that maximum exhalation. So that's where I'm really putting the maximum stretch on that diaphragm. So I can sit on that, breath in, and then sink, breath out. Okay? So I'm combining a little trigger point release with a stretch on that diaphragm, and I can do that in a couple of positions. So really handy little skill to start to tackle, particularly if you're getting stitches on a regular basis. Stitches are fascinating things, guys, and if you start to understand your body, you'll be able to tackle them really well, and you'll get more performance out of your body. I want to talk about your real side stitches in another video. So guys, check that out. Be comfy at all times. If anything hurts, obviously stop. But yeah, for more information, check us out at rifrev.com.